market bounces off a bottom, it ultimately goes back to a higher high. Don't put all of your eggs in one basket calling NODs. Your methods of prospecting should be very diversified, and you should be turning over as many stones as possible in building a successful database, and a database that's not convoluted. Make sense? Is anyone have questions? Please.
When you were talking about door knocking, and you said within 4 months you had a bunch of listings, within those 4 months, how many times did you visit and revisit the area? Do you just have one area? I mean, I can't imagine you started here and just kept walking, right?
Okay.
Probably had like a farmed area.
So I don't. I had a small farm. I like to. Yes, part of it is my ego that I wanted to go in and see lots and lots and lots of signs that had my name on it and my face on it. So what is the sense of having a big farm and going back to the same people over and over again if nobody's going to buy or sell in that area in a specified period of time? If no one's going to do that for a year, you're going to make no money for a year. So I had a small farm. I'm a believer, that's a really good question, I typically don't talk about that, and I should. Typically I believe your farm should be anywhere from 150 to 200 homes. But I want you randomly going out there and finding people who do have the need to buy or sell property over a specified period of time, not sticking to one farm. By sticking to one farm, you're pigeonholing yourself into that one area. I want you to break down those barriers. So if you want to have a farm, I'm in favor of having a farm, and I think it throws off dividends down the road. But in building a business, you need to go out there and be very active in defining your audience, who's going to take action within a specified period of time. And I'm going to give you very specific questions to ask.
So it would be like 150 to 200 per farm, and if you want to have
just one farm, no.
Oh, just one farm?
One farm.
One farm?
Just one farm. The rest of your time, you're going out there and just prospecting. I'm going to share with you, there's somebody who did this very successfully.
On your farm, did you send monthly?
I did, so I would send in monthly. So I captured the farm, I own the farm. But it's a small farm. But I want to share with you, is somebody, Mark has his license with the Lawn Pinnell. So when I was at Mavoto, several of the agents, Cindy Cockcroft, some of the very, very top agents were invited into the Mavoto network, so they trained with me. And there was a young guy who started his career off in a flash. I think he was 25, 26 years old when I started training him. His name is Matt. I think he does well over $1 million a year. You'll love how he built his business, so it's not just about door knocking. He sat in the fanciest restaurant bar in Los Gatos. Every night he sat in the same spot and just struck up conversations with people and properly qualified them and built a database by sitting in a bar. He didn't like door knocking. Worked, he's pretty successful. He's pretty darn successful. Let's go back to goals for a second. I want you to think of, again, so it's got to be a stretch, 50% chance of making it, and it needs to be down on paper. Talk to your family about it. Talk to your colleagues about it. Talk to your brokers about it. The more you talk about a goal, the realer it becomes, and it holds you accountable. It's like putting your feet to the fire. You're claiming ownership of something, right? And when making your goals, be clear what it is that you want and what are you willing to give up in order to obtain it. What is it that you want and what is it that you want to obtain it? You've heard this before, but there's nothing wrong. You want a new car, you want a house, you want a second house, you want to get a romantic getaway with a loved one, you want to provide a special educational opportunity for your kids. Make a picture, hang it in your cubicle, put it in your office, put it in your bedroom where you could see it. Have something motivate you. But equally important, your goals have to be, you can't work blindly towards something. That's the importance of defining your goals. What is it for? But there's also an emotional attachment, because I believe most emotional people aren't just driven by this. They're driven by having that 4 spheres in order. What I mean is financial, physical, spiritual, and emotional. Those 4 spheres are typically in order for most successful people. So I want you to think of, how would you feel emotionally when you hit your goals? I'm going to tell you it's the greatest feeling in the world. It never bothered me, my first 4 months, that I didn't have a sale other than having to have this dialogue with Gita every day. What empowered me was the ability, was the beauty of setting my daily goals, hitting those goals every day, and feeling a sense of empowerment, accomplishment, and a sense of confidence by doing that. So how do you hit your goals? What are we going to do? I'm going to focus, for the sake of time, on what I call short-term goals. You should have your goals laid out every single day. I want everyone to buy today. I'd like everyone to make a pledge to themselves. You need to go out today and buy day at a glance. or Old Republic, or call Old Republic. They were giving them out free. It's day-at-a-glance calendar. You guys know what that is?
Yeah.
Okay, so day-at-a-glance calendar, and you are going to chart your success for the next 30 days. Why? First of all, we're going to create really good habits. We're going to chart everything that we do for the next 30 days, personally and professionally. You want to go on a date with your girlfriend? It's on your calendar. You want to go play with your kids? It's on your calendar. You want to take a boat? You want to go on a boating expedition, a fishing expedition over the weekend? It's on your calendar. Everything personally goes in your calendar, and everything professionally goes in your calendar. I'm doing this for 2 reasons. One, if you do what I'm telling you to do, it is going to empower the hell out of you. You're going to love that feeling, and you're going to want to continue doing it. The exact opposite will happen if you don't do it. You know, I'm a Jewish guy from New York. There's this thing called Jewish guilt. You know, that calendar is my guilt. You know, that calendar is my guilt. So you have to do it day at a glance. It must be a hard physical copy. It can't be your iPhone. It can't be a computer. I want that in front of you all day long. So if in fact you're not doing exactly what is on your calendar, you are giving yourself a good stiff kick in the rear end, an emotional kick in the pants, to ensure that you get back on track. Second reason I'm having you do this is the following. It is making sure that you are on track, but also it's making sure that anybody who tries to take you off track knows that you have a sense of purpose and you're not going to deviate from what you promised to do. What should be on your calendar? Let's talk about this from a real estate standpoint, and then I'll share my calendar with you. What should be in your calendar is the following. Well, what do you think that you would have in your calendar? Let me pose this in the form of a question. What do you think should be in your calendar?
Appointments? In my calendar of appointments?
What should you calendar? I said I want you to calendar all professional and personal events for a minimum of 30 days. You have to do it for the next 30 days. If you do it for 30 days, you'll do it in perpetuity. You'll do it forever because you'll love how it makes you feel and you'll love the results that it's yielding you. But I'm asking, what do you think should be on your calendar?
Prospecting goals.
Prospecting, no, not prospecting goals. Your prospecting should be on your calendar. So rule number 1, 25% of your day must be spent prospecting. Whether you're working 20 hours a week, 30 hours a week, 40 hours a week, or 50 hours a week, 25% of the day must be spent prospecting. Why? Because sales is about solving people's problems and meeting people's needs, and you can't be selling something if you're not out there meeting people. So 25% of your day must be spent prospecting. What else should be in your calendar?
Face-to-face with people.
Correct. So well, that's prospecting, right?
Couldn't you do like 25% phone calls and then maybe like 5% face-to-face or 10% face-to-face?
That's fine. So, but let's just call it active prospecting.
Okay.
Let's say active prospecting. So 25% of your calendar should be spent actively prospecting. What else should be on your calendar? Here we go. Your listing appointments and your buyer's appointments should be on your calendar. They should be on your calendar. Every week you should have your listing appointments and buyer's appointments. Guess what happens? In the event you don't have a listing appointment or a buyer's appointment that week,
No business.
you better find one. How would you find one?
Perspective.
Go to your prospects.
Correct.
Let's go to.
Exactly. What else should be on your calendar, guys?
Open house.
Your exercise.
Well, that's personal, and I'll share my calendar with you. But you're right, your exercise was always on my calendar.
Open houses.
Open has a form of prospecting. It should be in my calendar. It should be on your calendar. And for my calendar, I'm a big believer. I always took one day off on the weekend, but I worked Sunday. Why? It's a great day to prospect. People are home, and I did an open house. So I love Sundays, but yes, it should absolutely be in your calendar. So listing appointments, buyer's appointments, prospecting 25% of your day. Okay, I'm going to make this easier for you. I'm going to tell you what else should be in your calendar. When you take a listing, do you have a fiduciary and a moral responsibility to effectively communicate with your clients?
Yes.
Well, of course you do. Every Thursday night for me was client night. Every Thursday night was client night. And why was this such an important night for me? Because the market speaks to you if you listen to it. A home is worth not what we think it's worth. A home is worth what a qualified buyer is willing to pay for it, nothing more, nothing less. A home is worth what a qualified buyer is willing to pay for it, and what a seller is willing to sell it for. That is it. We have no power to determine the price of a house. Is that a fair assessment? If the market talks to us and we listen, it's my responsibility to speak with a level of conviction and honesty to all of my sellers, and Thursday night was used as a price reduction night if the listing didn't sell. So in my whole real estate career, I had no expired listings. I said before, I either got fired once or they fired me, but I never had an expired listing in my real estate career. I could have been dating the person next to me. We could have been dating, and if her listing expired from the multiple listing service, I would be at that client's door the next day. And I believe that was my right, and that was my responsibility. I believe that was my right and responsibility, because if someone's listing expired, they didn't do the right job for their seller. They weren't honest enough and straightforward enough to let their seller know that the price will determine whether or not the house will sell. And therefore, I felt it was my responsibility to go out there and secure that business. Okay, so client night should be in your calendar. What else should be in your calendar? How about office? Why are people sitting in a real estate office?
Lonely.
You're right. And you know what? But you know, you can easily sit in Starbucks too, right? I mean, the reason somebody typically sits in a real estate office is because they're probably lonely. Guys, where you're going to get success is get out of the real estate office. So what goes in your calendar is your office work. What do you do during your office work? Well, I use my office time to map out my days, to run comps, follow up with clients, to prepare my listings, my listing contracts, to write any contracts that needed to be done. But that was done from 4 o'clock on. And there was a 2-hour time. From 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock, that would be my office time. Office time is 4 to 6. So if somebody called me up and said, hey, Eric, we heard about you and we think you're great and we want you to come over, stop what you're doing,